with the Sharingan in the MCU, where is my cheat? 25. Standing in front of a mirror and looking into my red glowing eyes, I can only question myself how I got in this situation. My life was nothing special. My name is David Blake, a typical ex-military guy who wanted to earn money and worked as a mercenary for some shady companies. I was still at my peak despite being 30 years old. 1. I have spiky black hair and a muscular body that was also athletic, and I was 6 feet 1 inch 1.85 meters tall. Furthermore, I was very proud of my body that I had worked so hard for. But like everyone, I needed my little secrets, so you could call me a man of culture. I collected them all, from anime figures to other stuff like my first mobile phone, the godly Nokia 3310. Little did I know that my hobby would probably kill me someday. 2. After a month-long mission, I could finally go home and concentrate on the more significant stuff in life, which was to dust off my collection and maybe add some more to it. 1. When I arrived home, there were already 2 packages lying on the floor. When I have time, I should thank my neighbor for bringing them in. So after I freshened up, I started to unpack the packages. The first thing was a 50 centimeters long Iron Man figure that I waited so long for. The second one was something more special. It was an arm. However, this was no ordinary arm. This arm had a lot of eyes in it. When you pushed a button, the eyes would start glowing red with something like black dots in them, and you were right. This arm contained 10 Sharinans, the most epic dojutsu there is. 3. My heart leaped when I had both of my new achievements in my hands. Now it was time to add them to my other treasures. I walked to my treasure shelf in a separate room, where I wanted to put them, but it was full of other treasures. I had the choice to let go of my newly acquired pieces and make some space, or hold them and create some space for them. Like the man I am, I used my elbow to create some space in my MCU row. While carefully pushing the Infinity Gauntlet aside, I didn't notice the War Machine figure was also pushed to the edge of the shelf. And then it all happened really fast. The War Machine figure started to fall from the shelf. With my Tyler Rake reflexes, I tried to catch it. Holding the Sharingan arm and the Iron Man figure with both hands, I still wanted to save War Machine from his movie doom. So I used my foot to catch it. Awkwardly catching the figure with my foot, I accidentally hit the shelf, and it started to shake. When I looked up, I could only watch the godly Nokia, which was sitting on the Iron Thrones, also fall to its doom. To save the godly Nokia, I placed my face underneath it, and the god of mobile phones hit me directly between my eyes before everything turned dark. 2. Coming back to my senses, I noticed that I was lying on something wet and hard. As I opened my eyes, I was grateful that I didn't pee myself while passing out, but it was strange that I wasn't at home anymore. I looked around only to see a dark alleyway that looked like it was from a Batman Origins movie. Standing up and stretching, I noticed the most horrible thing that could possibly happen to me. The Iron Man figure and the Sharingan arm had disappeared. 1. My mind went crazy, and then I put the puzzle together. During the time I was unconscious, someone came into my home and tried to steal my brand new figures. However, because I wouldn't let them go, he kidnapped me, and after he somehow opened my hand, he took them and left me there. My mission was clear. I had to find this person and destroy him. 2. But first, I need to know what my situation is. I looked down at myself and saw that I was wearing a black t-shirt and green cargo pants. Looking through my pants pockets, I found that I still had my wallet on me with like $50 in it. But the most significant thing I found was the savior I needed right now. My Nokia 3310. I pressed the power button and it turned on. Even after over 20 years, the battery still worked, but I had no service. 1. Without a choice, I stepped out of the alley to find a public phone. While the alley was dark and chilly, the scene outside was sunny and friendly, with a lot of people on the street. It looked like I was stranded in New York. I have never been to New York, but it seems just like it does in movies. As a result of my work, I spent most of my time outside the USA, and my family home, after my parents passed away, my only home, was in a small village in the middle of nowhere. While walking down the street, I noticed that everyone had started to stand still and look up. Initially, I thought I would see Mark Wahlberg running from the wind, but when I looked up, I realized what was happening. 2. On the lit-up screen, a man could be seen standing there with a paper in his hand. I knew this man and I knew what would happen next. The man said, "I'm Iron Man." Standing there for a moment, I thought it was a public viewing or something. A lot of people went crazy and started to scream and cheer like it was 2008 again. I walked to the next newspaper stand and an old-timer was standing there speaking with some customers. When he noticed me, he started talking like he had known me for years. "Hello young man, what can I do for you?" "Hello, I just wanted to ask why people are going crazy about an old movie playing on a big billboard." The old-timer looked at me like I was a Ninja Turtle or something. "Movie? That was Tony Stark announcing he was a superhero or something. Is he serious?" That was funny, but what is really going on? Still perplexed, he said, "What do you mean? You don't know Tony Stark?" As someone in my line of work, you can tell quickly if someone is lying or not. And this man was totally serious. No, I know him, thank you for the info." After buying a newspaper, I quickly got out of the situation. According to the newspaper, the year was 2008. It came over me, not only was I kidnapped and transferred to the Marvel world, but whoever did it to me stole my new figures. 3. Sitting on a bench and thinking about what to do next. Getting a place to sleep and getting as many weapons as possible to protect myself from this shit show of a world was my first priority. Not only are there figure thieves, but also some dark gods and some purple aliens who will try to kill everyone on this planet. I had only one problem: my credit card didn't work in this universe. And with only about $47 in my wallet, I could probably buy a sturdy set of butter knives to throw at Thanos if he shows up. 1. Since most missions would take me into rainy jungles, my usual good-to-go arsenal was a tactical vest, a reliable army knife, a sharp machete, and a few throwing knives, along with a pistol and assault rifle. 2. Normally, the machete and knife are strapped to the back of my vest to surprise my opponents. I never really liked using pistols and rifles. They are too loud and too heavy for my taste. And most missions were stealth missions, so I didn't need to use them so often. But now I have nothing on me. But even so, I don't think the average Joe would have a chance against me. After sitting for a while and thinking about what I know about the Marvel world and some other ISEKAI stories, I noticed something really strange. Where is my cheat? Like a good protagonist, I wanted to try some ISEKAI tropes. To not embarrass myself, I walked back to the dark alley and called out loud status, but nothing happened. Stats, also nothing. Fireball, nope, no flames for me and no slime to level up. In the process of casting some spells, I noticed that my Nokia turned on all by itself. At last, my status would show on my mobile phone. 1. I looked at the phone only to see that the game Snake was running. Are you kidding me? What David didn't realize was that a crow had followed him the whole day. 1 Awaken 7. I start to play the Snake game at the highest speed since it was kinda entertaining. 13. After playing it for several hours, my mind was finally clear. However, I still had no idea what to do. The first thing that came to my mind was to hunt down some bad guys and get their money. 3. Maybe I could become the next Punisher, but that would make Frank mad, so back to the drawing board. 7. Help. My really meaningful thoughts were interrupted by a woman screaming. 3. After following the scream, I could see 2 men and a woman. It seems like the woman is trying to get away from the men, but they cornered her in a dead end. After sneaking behind them, I could see and hear what was going on. The 2 men looked like criminals from a movie. The athletic one looked like he was the leader, while the small fat guy seemed to be his subordinate. The leader cornered her and said, "Stop running away. We only ask you to stay with us for the night. Yeah, listen to the boss, you will like it with us, we really are good guys." 6. After saying this, they begin to laugh like madmen. Hearing this, I got out of my hiding spot and said, "Wow, and I thought I was in the Marvel universe and not in DC Comics. You guys laugh like you work for the Joker." 40. The subordinate turns around and screams while clenching his fists, "Who the fuck are you? I give you 3 seconds to fuck off or I will beat you up." 1. I started to smile after hearing this. You are more cliché than I thought. Do you guys have some guidebooks where you read this stuff up? 7. I could see the subordinate walking towards me. Standing back, the leader simply used some cliché line to intimidate me too. "I think you don't know who I am and what I can do." As the subordinate reaches for my hand, I twist my body, grab his wrist, and throw him to the ground Steven Seagal style. He even made a small flip. 13. Looking down, I could see that he was still alive but unconscious. I looked calmly at the leader and said, 2. I think he will sleep here for some time. Do you also have business with me? Or should we call it a day here? He bent his head upwards and started laughing like an anime demon lord. "Ha ha ha ha, you're a dead man? Did you hear about the mutants that started appearing everywhere? Let me show you the difference between you and me." 13. Before I could tell him that he should stay in the X-Men movies, he dashed forward like the Flash, bumping into me, causing me to fly backwards and hit a wall. I could feel blood dropping from my head. My sight became blurred and blood started to flow in my eyes. 7. I could only see the woman crying and the leader laughing. Some very old memories started to flow back to me. The day my parents died in a terrorist attack. I was unable to help them because I was partying the other day and was too drunk to come with them to church. 13. The terrorists stormed the church, and after the police arrived they killed all the hostages before taking their own lives. I felt so helpless that day, and even after I became stronger I was still weaker than some no-name mutant in Marvel. 3. What should I do? Why can't I do anything? 9. The mutant charged again. Is this the end? Suddenly I could hear a voice in my head. Did you come here to die? Are you still too weak to save others? 10. Time seems to have stopped because the mutant stopped mid-run and the woman's tears stopped in the air. 6. I bent my head and I could see a raven sitting left of me on a dumpster, eyes glowing red. At the moment I thought Itake came here to scold me. 4. What do you want me to do? He is too fast. The raven simply tilted his head and said, "Do you want to see the truth of this world? I can give you the power to dominate everything." 3. I couldn't help but smile when I heard it. Nothing is free. What do you want from me? The price is the darkness that comes with this power. More pain, more suffering. Can you bear it? 34. The decision was dead or suffering. Making up my mind, I only could say yes. 4. The raven spread its wings and feathers started to fall everywhere. Then he flew into me, fusing with my body, and I could hear him again in my head. 3. Then awaken. 28. Dash. The mutant had his eyes wide open and stopped his dash when he noticed that his new victim wasn't there anymore. 6. Are you looking for me? I was standing right behind him. The mutant tried to turn around with his super speed, but before he could do anything, I hit him with my backhand and sent him flying into the dumpsters at the wall. 1. Mutant POV 6. Jumping up from the dumpsters, the mutant could see the man standing in front of him, eyes glowing red in the darkness. He could see that the eyes weren't completely red. Next to the black pupil was something like a comma, tomo, one in each eye. 2. Suddenly, the mutant was unable to move. While looking down at himself, he noticed that several swords were pinned to his body. 7. When he looked up, he only saw a big sword coming down on him. The sword cut through him and split his view into 2 different angles. And after that everything turned dark. David's POV. The mutant collapsed in front of me. After I awakened my eyes, a lot of information flooded my brain. How to use these eyes and what they are capable of. The first thing I noticed was that the world became brighter and the mutant and the woman had something like energy floating around them. The energy of the woman was dim and white, while the energy of the mutant was much brighter and its color was green. 9. But that was not all. When the mutant started to attack me, I could see every small movement, and because of this I could predict his next move. When he looked into my eyes, I could feel a connection to him and my mind overwhelmed his. I could freely decide what he would see, and when it became too much he collapsed. When I entered his mind I could also see his energy or chakra becoming unstable. 9. It seems that my body has changed. Something was flowing through my body, something like a river. That should be my chakra and my body is healed too. 1. The woman in the alley saw everything that happened, and when I said out loud what I thought, she became even more dumbfounded. She looked at me and said, "What just happened? What are you people?" 12. Initially, I was embarrassed that she had heard my thoughts, but then I realized that she was also scared of me. 1. It only took a glance from her to calm her down. Then she simply walked out of the dark alleyway, forgetting what had happened here. 3. Looking down at the fat criminal, 2 slapped his face and he woke up, only to see a dragon eating him alive, so he collapsed again. Nearly $2,000 were the loot I collected from the criminals. But before I could walk out of the alley, some people started to come around the corner. When a person with a visor and a woman with white long hair showed up, they only found a mutant and fat man lying on the ground. The person who did this was nowhere to be found. Only a few ravens' cries could be heard in the distance. 16. Spy the spies. Standing high up on a rooftop, I remembered the really strange feeling when I morphed into ravens. Strange, yet familiar at the same time. 10. I hope the talking raven doesn't want to make an attack at 2.0 out of me. 9. How I morphed into ravens. No idea. I can simply call the ravens out of nowhere, and they appear and swarm me. It's like I become part of the swarm and then I can simply fly wherever I want. 17. I need to test my abilities when I have the time and space for them. There have been a lot of changes in my body. I feel like I'm stronger and faster and that I have acquired some kind of healing factor. 1. Since I have no idea how strong the healing factor is, and because healing factor equals pain, I am not very eager to test it out. 11. In addition, I am unaware of how the chakra in my body affects these abilities, or if the chakra can be strengthened. The only thing that I noticed is that the Sharingan drains chakra as long as I have it active. 1. Transforming into ravens seems to drain me even more than the Sharingan. I also tried to copy the super speed from the mutant when he attacked me, but it seems like I can't copy mutant abilities at the moment. 8. While I was in my thoughts, some movement in the alley attracted my attention. Thanks to my Sharingan, I could read their lips even from high up. The white-haired beauty looked at Cyclops and asked Scott, "What happened here? Why is this guy down?" 7. I have no idea, but our mission stands. We will pick up the mutant and report back to Charles, said Cyclops as he looked around. Seeing this, it seems like Professor X can't see me with Cerebro. I don't want to deal with him or other mutant stuff. Therefore, I prefer it if it stays this way. 18. Picking up my godly phone, I looked at the clock and it was already 10 p.m. Time to look for a place to stay for the night. 3. I left the rooftop and the mutants behind and found a motel only half an hour later. When I went to the receptionist, he nearly fainted seeing my eyes, so I had to hypnotize him to forget it. Occasionally, the Sharingan reacts to my emotions, so when I got happy about finding a motel, they activated. 3. Getting a cheap room, the first thing I did was take a shower. Standing in front of the bath mirror and looking into my red glowing eyes, I can only question myself how I got in this situation. I played with my phone while lying in bed and then I wondered if it had powers too. Maybe it could kill Thanos if I drop it on his head, but maybe it's just a Nokia 3310, who knows. 16. With this though I drifted into darkness. 2 weeks have passed since I got transferred into the Marvel world. The first thing I did was change the motel to a comfortable hotel, in the middle of New York. To solve my money problem, I used the hero method to kick bandits' asses and steal their money. It's really profitable. I don't know why Spider-Man was so poor. 26. I also got better using my Sharingan and ravens. My Sharingan doesn't pop up from nowhere anymore, but it still has only one tomo. I can summon a raven now to scout the city for criminals and other stuff. The ravens appear out of thin air. I still can't get my head around how it works. 12. But the more epic ability of the raven is that I can place objects in the raven's mouths. It seems like they have a Kamui dimension down their throat, and if I wish for it, they just spill the object out. 18. Since the first appearance of the raven who could talk, he has never appeared again. I still don't know what he was. I know that the peaceful time will soon end, so I need to be prepared for it. I don't really plan to help the Avengers or any other superhero group. However, I will not sit still when my life is in danger from aliens or other beings. I'm not more powerful than Captain America at the moment. I can't beat the gods, but I can probably hit them in the face if it's necessary. 13. I also need to evolve my Sharingan or even acquire the MS. It's unlikely that I can get the EMS since I don't have a brother to steal eyes from. But I will do everything in my power to archive it. Maybe there is another way to get it. 38. As I can't use element attacks, and I believe I've tried even with hand signs, it's really time to get weapons. My clothes and weapons can be transported in the Ravens so people won't think I'm crazy when I walk around in a military outfit and carry weapons with me. 4. My Sharingan would probably make me a competent sharpshooter. However, I decided to stick to the medieval method of using a machete, knife, and throwing knives, all combined with a military outfit and tactical vest. 21. I'm glad that Amazon delivers even in the Marvel universe. 8. After I got my gear, I thought the most effective way to get a hang of the Marvel world would be to join S.H.I.E.L.D. However, after I remembered that Hydra is a big part of it at the moment, I decided to take the easier way. I will spy on the spies. So I sent some Ravens out to find the agent who does all the dirty work for Fury, Phil Coulson. 1. Two men are seated next to each other in an undisclosed location. One of them is Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and the other one is the Slav. I mean Agent Phil Coulson. 1. Nick Fury's POV. Agent Coulson, any news from the red-eyed guy who appeared in New York a while ago? 1. After the events with Captain Marvel, I made it my mission to find meta-humans. Eliminate them if they are a threat, but if they are useful, recruit them. Even when people call me a psychopath, I know there is something waiting to attack this planet, and I can't let it happen. 9. Coulson looked a bit intimidated but answered with a relaxed voice. I tried to track him, but he always avoids the cameras and it is like he teleports from place to place. It seems like he is a trained soldier of some sort, and one of his abilities could be hypnosis since no one who ever encounters him can remember his face. 1. At first I thought he was a mutant, but Charles Xavier denied it. And since they are not searching for him, it shouldn't be a problem if we get him. I already know this information. Something else? We can't let someone like him run around without supervision. My patience crumbled a bit when he had no new information. 2. We will try our best, but I have no doubt that sooner or later we will get him. Calming down a bit, I let him off the hook. All right, Agent Coulson, do your job and I will wait for the good news. After Coulson left, I sat in my chair with my eyes closed. 2. If only Stark wouldn't be such a pussy and join us, we could do so much more. It's time to send Black Widow, maybe she can help him to make up his mind. I open my eyes and call Natasha Romanoff. 2. What Nick didn't realize was that a red-eyed raven was sitting at his window and listening to all what he had to say. 12. You need to help your family? 10. After Nick Fury's meeting, Phil Coulson sits in his black SUV looking for the red-eye guy from New York. He spent the last month in some of the most dangerous areas in New York, but he did not succeed in catching David. His agents are waiting nearby to strike when the time is right. Coulson's POV. Every time Director Fury thinks we've got a superhuman on our hands, he sends me out to deal with them. Why people cannot be like Stark and simply show up and make my work easy. 5. My new target is a pain in the ass. He appears out of nowhere, beats up a gang or criminal, and steals their money. Afterwards he simply disappears. 5. Always strike in the camera's blind spots or in very dark alleyways. The only picture that shows his face has his head hidden in the shadows, only red glowing eyes could be seen. I exhaled loudly and said, we have Hawkeye and Natasha to deal with people like this, but no, the good old Phil must do it. 2. Suddenly it felt like I wasn't alone anymore. I looked up slowly in the back mirror to see a man sitting right behind me. His face was handsome and sharp, but the most shocking thing was his bright red glowing eyes, which seemed to pierce my soul. 3. Hello Mr. Coulson, I heard that you are looking for me. You are lucky I also looked out for you. Hearing this, my left hand wanders to my jacket to grab my pistol from my right holster. You see, we will seek the same goals in the near future, so I am proposing that you help me in some ways, said the man while smiling. I think you got the wrong person here. I don't know what you are talking about. Hearing this, the man started to laugh a bit. Philip Coulson, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Your director is Nick Fury. Seems to be right. No. How does he know that? It's not like S.H.I.E.L.D. is running around and announcing that. So no time to pretend, I will confront him. And if I tell you that we have even more for you when you join us? We could use someone with your abilities. The man laughed louder at this. Joining a corrupt organization? No thanks. If I wanted to be controlled like a little bitch, I would have joined Charles Xavier. Apparently he doesn't think highly of our organization, or maybe he doesn't like bald guys, who knows. 13. So what do you want from me? The man comes closer to my seat. I want all the information on every meta-human you found till now, and if something new comes up I want you to send me this information too. Is he crazy? I would never betray the S.H.I.E.L.D. And if I say no? His smile vanishes and he becomes serious. Afterwards he grabs a knife seemingly out of nowhere and says, then I have no use for you. The next moment I knew he would kill me unless I cooperated. And if I am unable to convince him, I need to get rid of him. 3. I don't know if I have enough time to contact the other agents, but if they hear the gunshots they will come here. I grab my weapon from my jacket and at the same time push my seat back. The man let the knife fall to the floor when the seat hit him. He seemed stunned for a moment. It's my chance now, so I aim back and pull the trigger. but he shifts his body and avoids the first bullet, then grabs my hand and twists it. 1. I hate pistols in close quarter combat. 8. Letting go of the pistol, I push myself from the seat and break free of the man's hold. With my back against the steering wheel, I grab another pistol from my left holster. Now that I have the upper hand, I can take him down. At the same time, the man grabs something behind his back and then throws it at me. I pull the trigger, but the man shifts his body at superhuman speed and I only manage to graze his shoulder. 6. I wanted to shoot again, but then I felt a horrible pain in my chest. Looking down, I saw a knife stuck in it. My vision becomes blurred, and I can only see darkness. Sometimes I hate this job. In the next moment, I suddenly sat back in my seat like nothing had happened. And the man was still smiling at me from behind. 5. Why are you so shocked? Did you see a ghost? I still couldn't say anything. I'm sorry, but I need the info, so if you don't want to help me, I will force you. As I look in the back mirror, the black comma in the glowing eyes starts to spin. Suddenly I feel like I have known the man my whole life. Upon closer examination, he looks like my long-lost brother DOM, and if he is here I need to help him. 26. Always help your family. 6. My voice in my head became a lot deeper when I thought about this. Phil, will you help me? I smiled at him and say of course, but it seems that I lost your phone number. Can you give it to me? DOM pulls out an old mobile phone from his pocket and says, I will call you. I don't have a new number yet. So I gave him my number and he left the car. What a nice guy. Finally my family is complete. What a good day to be on the lookout. 6. Enjoying life. I was stunned by the amount of fight Coulson put up inside his head. The movies never showed him this way, but in the end, I only toyed with him there. The first thing I did after getting my brother was to buy a new SIM card and send my greetings to Philosophy 1. What should I do from here? Wait until the event happens where the superheroes mess up? Or gather some more brothers and sister that will working for me? 2. After thinking for a while, it hit me like an ISEKAI truck or phone. I have money, hobbies, and time. Let's enjoy life. 2. That's what I did, and the next few months were blissful. 1. I woke up early in the morning and trained my body for a bit and then meditated. Meditating helped me feel the chakra in my body. I noticed that my body became stronger with the alignment of my chakra control. How did I learn to meditate? YouTube. 9. After 2 months I could transfer chakra to any point in my body. This came with some perks. 3. My first experience was that I could concentrate my chakra on wounds and heal them faster, which depleted my chakra very rapidly. The first time I used this power was when I got a deep paper cut from an Amazon package. The wound healed in seconds. 4. Then I did something that turned me into Spider-Man's rival. I could concentrate my chakra on my feet and after a while it started to leak out of them. Since I knew what happened in the anime, my next step was to climb some walls, and it was surprisingly easy to do. Of course I also tried to walk on water, but I only did that in my bathroom. I don't want to become the new Jesus when someone is watching me do it. 8. Although it was a lot more difficult than walking on my walls, after watching Naruto I knew that a constant stream of chakra from my feet was the way to go. 4. After falling in my bathtub about 200 times, I was finally able to walk very slowly on water. Furthermore, I could also channel the chakra in my hands and feet to become stronger and faster. This is in relation to how much stamina I use in combination with the chakra. 4. It is difficult to describe how much chakra I have, but it feels like a large river that flows through my body and gets drier as I use it. Whenever I use it too much, I get slower and sluggish because my stamina is somehow linked to it as well. I didn't test if I could pick up a car and throw it. Nevertheless, I am sure that it would not be a problem for me. The only question is how much chakra it will drain. 4. In the afternoon, when my morning training was finished, I spent some time with my hobby. I realized very quickly that this world has a lack in entertainment. There were a lot of movies and the world was somehow more technologically advanced than my original world. People walked with the most modern smartphones around and it was only the year 2008. But there were no mangas or anime in this world, only comics. Why did I land here? This world is really sad. 12. Since my favorite things weren't here, I brought Iron Man figures and helmets. When the Avengers assemble, I hope I can get more. 3. Maybe hire some artists and start a mangaka company in this world. Maybe I could use my Sharingan to give them some ideas. 5. This would be a real selfless act to save this world. 4. In the evening, I did nothing more than laze around and occasionally go to a club. Coulson sent me reports from time to time about mutants and the other day about a really angry green guy, but nothing worth interfering with. Before going to bed, I collected my chakra and directed it towards my eyes. As usual, I woke up early in the morning. I went to a party yesterday in some wannabe rich club to waste my hard-earned money. The only problem was that I couldn't get drunk anymore because the chakra in my body neutralized the alcohol the moment I drank it. 15. When I looked to my left, I could see a beautiful naked woman pressing her body against me. I picked her up at the club yesterday. Life is really good for me these days. 4. I stood up, put some clothes on and walked into a separate room. There I placed a newly made shelf with some merchandise from Iron Man and my godly Nokia on it. After praying for a moment to the Nokia god, I entered the kitchen. 8. I still take the phone with me when I venture out. Maybe it has hidden powers that I haven't discovered yet. 7. I even threw it once at a bad guy but nothing happened except some head trauma for the criminal. 8. He eventually woke up after a while and said that he saw God flying at him and hitting him in the face. After that, he became a law-abiding citizen. 16. I bought a normal smartphone for day-to-day use. 1. Making some cornflakes in the kitchen. I smiled when I picked up my phone. I got some pictures from a guy named ISEKAI Oda. A boy with a straw hat was in the pictures. 11. It is a miracle that he came up with this idea. It was definitely not me who used the Sharingan on him and gave him a lot of money to start a mangaka company. 5. After finishing my breakfast, I turned on the TV in the living room and sat down on the couch. A news report started playing about an upcoming event. The Stark Expo will start next week and everyone is welcome to join this event. Tony Stark mentioned that it will be unforgettable, said the reporter enthusiastically. 1. I exhaled loudly at this. It seems like my slow life is over. The MCU plot progressed really fast after Iron Man 2 and I needed to be prepared for it. It was time to meet the leading figures at the upcoming events. 2. After bringing breakfast to the lady, I began my morning training. 5. Beautiful night. Standing in a crowd full of people, I'm looking at the sky only to see something drop down from an airplane. The something in the sky was Iron Man evading fireworks. He landed safely on the stage and the crowd went wild. 1. Not all people like Tony, but there is no denying that he has style. 2. Seeing him appear like this live was even more epic than in the movie. As my fanboy heart calmed down, I put on the Iron Man helmet that I bought from a souvenir shop and activated my Sharingan. 2. Tony's chakra is dim white and it flickers around like it is disturbed by something, which means that he isn't fine and the plot unfolds the same as in the movie. 25. Which means that Tony will soon give Pepper the CEO position, meet Vanko, and let Black Widow spy on him. My Raven spy heard that Fury planned to have Natasha seduce Stark and become his official lover. But once Pepper becomes CEO, things will proceed in the usual way. I will strike after Natasha joins Pepper. And then I will help Tony a bit with his problem and maybe stay for a bit longer to see Vanko using his suit against Tony and War Machine. 2. Why do I want to help Tony even if it's a drag and a lot of work? Simple. The more Tony is prepared for the coming events, the less work is falling on me. Maybe I can guide him to the right place. 2. I also don't want to use my Sharingan on Tony. This is because I still don't know if the hypnosis has some side effects that can hinder his progress in the long run. I don't think that small mind tricks will do anything bad to a person, but long-term hypnosis is a whole different thing. Right now, Phil is helping me to see if there are any side effects. 2. Also keeping in touch with the key players should give me the opportunity to prevent some events from occurring. And maybe, just maybe, I could also use some of Tony's gadgets. As I was walking home, I saw a 12-year-old kid who looked very familiar to me walking out of a souvenir shop with his hot-looking aunt. 10. I'm sorry, Peter, but this stuff is too expensive and I do not have enough money with me. Next time we come here I promise you that I will buy you the gauntlet or the helmet. It's all right, Aunt May, I will wait, said the boy with a sad smile on his face. Aunt May looked heartbroken when she heard this. When I walk past them I glance them in the eyes and then I head for the exit. While May and Peter continued to walk, the happy Peter now holding an Iron Man helmet in his hands. 16. The next events unfolded similarly to the movie. Tony destroyed a senator on live TV and Pepper became the new CEO of Stark Industries. Vanko also attacked Tony at the Grand Prix in Monaco. It was really funny to watch Tony struggle against him when you think that he'll be fighting a titan in the near future. 3. Where was I when he was attacked? I was in a hotel in Malibu watching all this unfold on TV while eating popcorn. 1. As I watched Vanko's lighting whips, something in me awoke. But at this moment I didn't know what it was. 19. After sending a raven to Tony's home to be on standby, I waited for Tony to fight the future War Machine. After a few days, my raven alerted me that something was happening in Tony's mansion. Seeing through the raven's eyes I could see a huge crowd arriving at Tony's mansion to celebrate his birthday. 1. It's showtime. Standing on the rooftop of the hotel wearing an expensive suit, I transform into a swarm of ravens to fly to the mansion. When I arrived at the nearby cliff, the fight had already started. I couldn't see Pepper or Happy, which means that Happy brought her to safety already. What surprised me was a beautiful redhead wearing a fantastic night dress not far away from me, observing something through binoculars and reporting it on a phone. 11. Thanks to my eyes I could see her clearly. Even as she watched this situation, her chakra remained calm and pure white. Too bad I couldn't see her lips because her phone and hand blocked my view. It was already too late when I focused my chakra on my ears. 1. I understand, sir. I will wait till your arrival to talk to him. And then she hung up. Natasha's POV. Sitting in the bushes is not really my style. I would rather sit now in a hot bathtub with a good wine and watch this unfold on a screen. But an order is an order and I have no choice but to sit back and see how this ends. 1. Normally something like this would be the job for Phil Coulson. However, last time I saw him he looked like he was a bit drunk and he also talked about a long-lost brother of him. When Nick Fury saw him, he sent him home to relax for a few days. 1. Director Fury will arrive tomorrow. I hope Tony doesn't do anything more stupid and get himself killed. Saying this I exhaled loudly. I thought he would figure out a way to cure his condition on his own. But instead of doing anything to heal himself, he is sulking and is ready to die. I hope the director will be able to help him out for a bit. In the next moment, a huge explosion could be heard, but no flames erupted. Instinctively, I lay down on the ground. I lift my head from the ground and say, what the hell happened? I hope they are still alive or else the director will be pissed. Standing up, I wanted to go to the mansion to check on them, but a deep and yet pleasant voice stopped me. Don't worry, he is fine. Swinging around, I could see a man in a black suit standing only a few meters away from me. His face was hidden in the shadows. 1. What shocked me the most was that I hadn't even noticed him there. For how long was he there? Pointing somewhere behind me, he says, see, his friend is flying away completely fine too. I heard something take off that sounded like Tony's suit. But my gaze never left the strangers. Who are you and what are you doing out here? The man was quiet for a bit, then he looked up and said, this is such a beautiful night. Who wouldn't enjoy getting out for a walk? 2. Even without seeing his face, I could tell he was lying. And then you go for a stroll on the cliffside near Tony Stark's house. The stranger chuckled a bit and replied, you are right, it is not that romantic if you stand on a 30-meter cliff. Planning my next move, I was ready to take him out. My only weapon was a small pistol under my dress strapped to my ankle. 1. At first I wanted to see what was going on here. However, a small spider caught my attention. Saying this, the man stepped out of the shadow. Standing now in front of me, I could see him clearly. He had black spiky hair, deep blue eyes and a well-formed body. Looking into his eyes, I was afraid to lose myself in them, but that wasn't the right place or time for that. 1. Why don't you wait a bit till I have a brief talk with Tony there and then we can go and have a drink together. I'm sure Nick Fury will turn a blind eye this time. No pun intended. 2. First I wanted to laugh, but then I realized what he had said, making my eyes go wide. 1. He chuckled again and walked past me. Realizing that I couldn't let him go here, I lifted my skirt, grabbed my pistol and tried to point it at him. Before I could even hold the pistol up, he grabbed my wrist with his left hand. He was so fast that I couldn't even react to it. With his other hand, he pressed the magazine release, then he grabbed the slide and pulled it off the weapon. 2. This all happened in a matter of seconds and then he slapped the rest right out of my hand. 2. Before he could step back, I grabbed his wrist this time and used his knee to jump up. I then tried to grab his head with my feet by spinning my body. Director Fury calls it my signature move, the deadly crotch throat grab. 3. To prevent me from doing this, he just tilted his body to the side, which made me miss him. The move has a high chance of KOing my opponent, but if I miss, I could crash land on my back or head. Shutting my eyes, I awaited the pain, but nothing happened. 2. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't on the ground, but in the stranger's arms, holding me close to his body, like a princess. 1. He smiled and said, be careful there, it's really dangerous to do some acrobatics here. 7. I should still try and defeat him, but I couldn't. There was only one thing on my mind. Who are you? The man smiled warmly and said, you can call me David. 22. Afterwards, his eyes started to glow red. In both eyes, the pupils were still black, but 2 commas were spinning around them. And then everything went dark. In the next moment, I sat with Nick Fury and Tony Stark at Randy's Donuts. 2. Meeting with Tony. Placing Natasha back on the ground, I told her to go home and relax and to wait for further instructions from me. 5. I saved her phone number and then it was time to have a chat with Tony. 2. Entering the now completely destroyed house, I could see Iron Man in his full suit sitting at a big broken window watching The Dark Knight. 1. Coming closer without alerting him, I could see a broken man who was running out of time. Seems like the party went downhill even before I arrived here. Tony, yeah, some people just don't know how to behave. Tony replied without even looking back, still looking at the night sky. With a strange smile on his lips, he adds, but every party must come to an end. Listening to him, I know that he is not talking about his party. Yeah, the only thing that lasts are the things left after the party. Tony laughs at this and says, yeah, like pregnancies. When I walked next to him, I could see why he was looking out. I could see a beautiful night sky above endless water. 1. It's interesting, isn't it? Despite the destruction behind us, the world continues as if nothing has happened. And it will continue to do so even when we are forgotten. Feeling like Confucius, I chuckled to myself. Finally, Tony looked up with a confused expression. Tony's POV. Simply staring out the broken window was too much to ask for. Some guy had to appear and talk to me. He was probably one of those morning people who talk to you even before you had had your first coffee. 1. Standing next to me, he showed no signs of leaving. I was a bit stunned when I looked up. He looks outside and smiles to himself like he's just discovered the stars in the sky. You can see everyone has left. So the party is over and it's time to go home. Still looking out, he doesn't seem to be getting my hint. Maybe you should add a new element to the party to keep it alive? I heard your father already knew how to party hard, said the man while still looking outside. 1. Now it looks like I'm the only one who didn't get the hints. I don't know who you are or what this is all about, but I think this conversation is over. I was ready to stand up and go away when the man grabbed my shoulder and stopped me in my tracks. My name is David and I'm here to actually help you. I pushed his hand away. I never asked for your help. As he heard this, the man named David laughed loudly and said in a very serious tone, when I look at you, Tony, I can see you in the middle of the battlefield surrounded by enemies and no one to help you. Why do you keep everyone who cares about you away from you? Why not use everything in your power to stop this poison from killing you? 2. Now I understand that some organization must have sent him. I get it, but I don't need any help from you or the people you represent. David, or how he calls himself, laughed again at this. I can tell you this, Tony, I represent no one except myself. The better question is, what do you represent at the moment? Closing his eyes for a moment, he opened them again, but they were different now. Let me show you a world without Tony Stark. 4. I stared at the red, bizarre eyes. Everything started to change around me. The sky was filled with flying behemoths as the world was on fire, and around me a sea of corpses. Then I saw a giant person of a strange color standing on what looked like a battlefield, holding a man by the throat and speaking. I told you, Asgardian, I'm inevitable. 2. And then he holds up his hand with a gauntlet on it and snaps his fingers. Then suddenly nothing remained, the end of all things. And then I'm back in my destroyed house, cold sweat running down my spine. Kneeling in front of me is David, holding his head with one hand. 1. After a few seconds, he stood up and his eyes were normal again. However, his face was pale and he breathed heavily. He pulls out a card from his jacket and hands it to me before leaving. At the door, he said, "Call me if you would like to discover the stars again as well." And then he walks out the door. While still unable to move or even think of anything else, I exhaled loudly and said, "I need some sugar or my brain can't handle this anymore." David's POV. As I walked out of the house with unsteady feet, I could only scold myself. It seems that I overdid it a bit. Even after my Sharingan reached the second stage and my chakra consumption decreased, using genjutsu on this scale nearly drained me completely. 2. I didn't want to make Tony a second Coulson, so I decided to show him glimpse in the future. I can only hope that this will help him step up his game. 1. Following that, I called a taxi and texted Natasha where Nick Fury would find Tony in the morning. 1. As soon as I stepped into my hotel room, I fell asleep immediately. The next day, with a heavy head and feet, I took the next flight to New York. 1. There was only one thing on my mind: I needed to step up my game, as well. When I applied chakra to my eyes every day and kept them active until I went to sleep, they evolved. When I did this again after they advanced, I did not notice any improvement. Thus, there is another condition to be fulfilled before moving on to the next stage. Without finding answers at the moment, I returned home and got ready for the upcoming events. Little did I know that the last evening would bring such drastic changes to the storyline and the whole Marvel universe. 2. Chaos. While sitting on my comfortable couch, I am reading the first raw chapter of the Straw Hat's Legacy that was sent to me by Oda for approval. And I must say, he nailed it. The only thing he needs to change is the name. My ravens followed Tony for a while, and it seems that he is out of his down phase and is currently working on the new element. Sadly, I also lost my brother Phil. He seems to be at home and crying. I don't know what that is about, but I also don't have any new information about shield movements at the moment. 1. After Vanko gets his ass dealt with by Tony and Rhodey, I will lift my hypnosis of Coulson and let him be for a while. While I probably won't get involved in the Vanko fight, I still destroy some drones to save lives. Dealing with Vanko and hammers on my own would probably put me in the spotlight, but Tony wouldn't learn anything if he didn't fight Vanko himself. Since that evening, I haven't had any contact with Natasha. Since S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't spying on or raiding my apartment at the moment, it appears she is keeping the incident for herself. I hoped something like this would happen, but there is always a risk to such actions. Maybe I can meet her again at the Stark Expo next week. Hammer announced that he would revolutionize the world with his presentation. A very motivated guy. Hammer's presentation day came. I was still home watching over my equipment. I don't know how well I can handle robots. I can only hope to aim for the weak spots and don't break my machete in the process. 5. After this, I need to get my hands on some vibranium. Perhaps if I ask T'Challa nicely, he will make me some throwing knives, a machete, and a tactical vest. Then I have no idea how to process vibranium. 12. But that will have to wait for another day. Put on some combat boots, gray military cargo pants, and a black t-shirt under the tactical vest, and I was ready to go. My tactical vest allowed me to place my machete on my back, while I sheathed my main knife downwards at my chest. I also placed some throwing knives in a sheath on my belt and placed them at the back of my body. My Nokia and my smartphone were placed in a black military belt bag next to the throwing knives. I looked a bit like Carlos Oliveira from the Resident Evil 2 movie. 6. Perhaps my ravens can help me learn how to fast swap my clothes and weapon with my normal clothes from the get-go. Why not wear a mask? Even though I don't like the spotlight and have been hiding until now, I am not afraid to show off my face. And I'm also too handsome to hide my face. 11. Jumping out of the balcony, I transformed into a swarm of ravens and flew to the location of the expo. Arriving there, I stayed in the raven form and waited for shit to head south. Natasha's POV. While roaming around the expo and doing minor tasks for Pepper, I hoped only that this will be a peaceful evening. That I'm still here even after my cover is blown means Nick Fury still has high hopes for Tony. It has been bugging me for weeks now why I didn't report David to Director Fury. Initially, I thought it was all a dream, but when I saw a message from a guy named Cutie on my phone, I realized that it wasn't. Who saves himself as a cutie? 6. I'm pretty sure we will meet again soon, and the next time I will kick his ass. 1. But enough of this guy. The next presentation was announced and it was from Hammer Industries. When S.H.I.E.L.D. checked him out, some illegal weapon deals and some other minor things were found. The dance and the big robots make me think he is compensating for something. 1. The only enjoyable thing about this show was War Machine. But then Tony appeared on the stage. I had a terrible feeling about it. And then all went to hell. The hammer robots started to attack and chase Tony with War Machine in tow. But the most disturbing thing was that the robots who couldn't fly started to leave the stage and headed outside. There were people running around like crazy when suddenly I saw a robot stop and aim his shoulder cannon at a kid wearing an Iron Man mask. 1. No, you need to run away. I screamed at the kid. In the next moment, the robot falls to its knees with a machete in its neck. 2. No hidden weapons this time to shoot the robot in the head. 1. I could only chuckle at his cocky attitude. Now standing next to the kid was a man I hadn't been able to forget for the past few weeks. His eyes were still red and glowing like they were when I last saw him, wearing military clothes as if he was ready for war. David's POV. When Iron Man flew past me followed by some very angry robots, I knew that events were about to unfold. After I transformed back, I looked around, and then I noticed something strange that shouldn't have happened at this moment. Peter, who should have been saved by Tony later, was standing too early before the robot. Tony wasn't near this time, but another person was and she started to run to the boy. I knew that she wouldn't have enough time to save the future superhero, so I acted. Concentrating my chakra in my body and particularly in my feet, I leapt down at extreme speed towards the robot. Drawing my machete before I hit the ground, I slammed it into the unprotected neck of the robot. That stopped my jump and I landed like a cat next to Peter. Should I be a bit cocky? Sure. 6. No hidden weapons this time to shoot the robot in the head. She chuckled and then shook her head. 1. It seems like the evening will be eventful. Looking down at the boy, I asked myself if it was a butterfly effect of something that I did that brought him into this situation. Was this because I gave him this helmet? 6. Before I could think more deeply about it, I stopped because Aunt May was already running to us hysterically. To avoid scaring her, I deactivated my Sharingan. Peter, there you are. I was so afraid that something had happened to you. She bent down and gave him a big hug. Everything is fine, Aunt May. I saw a big robot and I wanted to defeat him. But this man got him before me. Saying this, he starts pointing at me. 2. As a punishment, he got a light slap on the head from Aunt May. She then turned towards us and said, "Thank you for saving my boy. I'm very grateful for this." I simply smiled and said, "Don't worry, it was a pleasure to help." Natasha looked shocked when she saw us having a nice chat while killer robots were flying around us and people were in panic. "I'm sorry that I'm interrupting, but I think you should bring yourself and your boy somewhere safe." And then she pointed at me and said, "And we need to get going and talk to Hammer." Without any chance to respond, she grabbed my hand and dragged me away. 2. Dragging me to the backstage, we could see Pepper and Happy arguing with Hammer, who was standing next to his team, who pressed hysterically on their keyboards. "Hammer, tell me what the hell is going on here. Why are your robots attacking and running amok?" said Pepper angrily. He looked at her like the prick he is and said, "We have everything under control. Just let me do my work and don't disturb us." Upon hearing this, Natasha turned to me and gave me an order. "Now do your thing. Make him say the truth and then we can end this. I know you're the guy Director Fury is looking for in New York. And I have experienced it myself that you can hypnotize people probably with your eyes." I was a bit stunned by the order, but I had nothing else to do. 2. So we walked up to Hammer. When he saw me, he became scared and tried to run away. But before he could, Natasha grabbed him and slammed his head on the nearby table. While I saw him wiggle, I knelt down a bit and activated my Sharingan. "Tell them everything you know about Vanko and also everything about this mess that is happening here." Suddenly he becomes limp and Natasha lets go of him. Standing up, he began to speak. "I freed Vanko from jail so he could help me build my robots. But now it appears he has overridden their programming, even if he should be in his cell at Hammer Industries." Pepper stepped forward and slapped him in the face. "You did what?" "Happy, Natalia, we need to do something." 2. After saying this, she starts to walk away. But I stopped her. "No, wait, you will stay here and call the police. Natasha and I will deal with it. Even if I know Vanko won't be there, I can still help Black Widow stop the robots." "Natasha, Happy, give me your key. I have my gear in your car. And stay with Pepper and protect her." Happy was like in a daze because he didn't know what was going on anymore, but then he gave her the key. And then he looked at Pepper. Happy, what was with this guy's eyes and what gear? However, the only people who could answer him had already left for the car. We arrived at the car without incident. "It seems like most of the robots got destroyed or are still following Tony around," I said while looking around. Natasha walked to the trunk and took a suitcase out. Then she tossed me the car key and said, "You drive, I need to change." Having said that, we jump in the car and I begin to drive to Hammer headquarters. Of course I could fly there, but then I wouldn't be accompanied by a woman who changes her clothes behind me. As I was stealing glances at her, Natasha said, 3. Could you please concentrate on the road? I don't want to beat you up before we deal with the robots and this Vanko guy. Looking in the back mirror, I could only see her in her underwear. 2. I'm sorry, but that's something I have no control over. She rolled her eyes as she grabbed my head and turned it forward. After that, she ripped out the back mirror. I only chuckled and said, "Fine, keep your secrets." 3. After arriving at Hammer Industries headquarters, Natasha was already in her battlesuit. Seeing it live was something else, I will tell you that. She looked at me and said seriously, "We will go in and deal with Vanko and then you have some questions to answer." 4. Looking at her, I smiled and gave an okay sign to her and started to walk into the imposing building. 1. Natasha rolled her eyes at this and followed me. Upon entering the building, an alarm started to ring. Vanko might have escaped or someone with a machete and military gear may have entered the building. I'm unsure what it is at the moment. Closing my eyes, I try to feel the people around the building and it seems to work somehow, but the range is pretty short at the moment. So I couldn't tell if Vanko was still in the building or not. 1. What are you doing? It's not time to take a nap. They are coming. Natasha panicked a bit while saying this. When I opened my eyes and saw a ton of people running up to us with batons and other melee weapons, I wondered if Hammer Industries was a weapon technology company, why they didn't have guns. 2. Ignoring her complaint, I said, I think Vanko and the control room should be further in. What do you say? The person who takes more people out doesn't pay on the first date. Natasha charged forward and knocked 2 people out. 2 down, she this while grinning. I guess she accepted the challenge. I enjoy competitions where I win even if I lose. 9. And so I moved forward too. Already 5 people were running towards me. I grabbed the first person who was near me and threw him at the 2 guys behind him. Then I took the baton of another and beat him up with it. Then I jumped up and like Van Damme in his prime I knocked 2 guys out with 1 kick. Then 2 people tried to grab me from behind, so I flipped backwards and slammed their heads against each other while I was still in the air. 7 down. I turn around and see Natasha shocking a guy with her armband, while another guy was hanging from the ceiling. That was 13. I won. 4. She's one of the competitive ones, so I need to be careful when I make bets with her in the future. I raised my hands and said, my loss you won, I will pay. She looked at me with frown eyebrows, why do I feel tricked here? 3. I walk past her and say, no idea, it must be your imagination. 4. She rolled her eyes a 3rd time and then followed me. 1. Vanko appears. Walking further in and beating some more people up, we finally arrived at a command room. But what is this strange feeling I have? Vanko should have left already, right? Be careful, I have a bad feeling about this. 5. Natasha nods and cautiously enters the dark room. The room was only lit up by some computers. She looks around and says it seems like Vanko has managed to escape. Stepping in front of the computer, we could see that every robot was programmed to find and destroy Iron Man. Natasha tried to turn them off but to no avail. I hate this Hammer guy, even his programming sucks, said Natasha angrily. 2. Can you return control back to Rhodey? Maybe he can help Tony deal with the situation. I will try, she replied while still concentrating on the computer. Then I felt that uneasy feeling again. I activated my Sharingan and looked around with nothing special in sight. After spreading my senses, I felt something behind a wall. A small chakra shape was visible behind the wall with my Sharingan as I walked closer. Dim but there. Suddenly, a mechanic arm breaks through the wall and is trying to grab me, but I managed to jump back to avoid the attack. No one told you not to play with strange things. Saying this in a heavy accent, a silver mecha with blue glowing eyes stepped through the wall. Let Tovarish Ivan enlighten you a bit. And then he starts to run forward. I will deal with him while you concentrate on freeing Rhodey. I urged her to continue and she nodded in agreement. I couldn't let him get any closer or Natasha would be injured. So I jumped towards him and grabbed his helmet. Before he could do anything, I threw him back into the room he was coming from. He crashed into the ground in the process. Drawing my machete, I could see him standing up already. 1. That was a smart move, you caught me off guard there. Let me show you how we attack in Soviet Russia. 7. Spreading his mechanic hands right and left, whips of pure blue electricity are coming out and cutting the ceiling and the ground in the process. This was problematic. I couldn't use my hypnosis on him because he was looking through his mask interface at me. Despite being faster than him, I wasn't sure if my machete or my fists would damage him. 8. I could only try to rip off his helmet and deal with him then. So I dashed forward again, but before I could make any move he started whipping at me at an insane speed. There was nothing else I could do but avoid the whip lines. 6. This is annoying. Why don't you come out of your pile of scraps and we sort it out like normal people do? Laughing and slashing at me, Vanko says, normal people you say? Your eyes are glowing and your body is moving very fast. How are you a normal person? Are you one of the mutants that the world is talking about? I click my tongue and sheath my machete again. Afterwards, I jump up to the ceiling. I use it to push myself down to increase my speed. No, I'm not. This must be hallucinations that you got from drinking too much vodka. 3. Dashing down and avoiding a whip, I tried to rip off his helmet, but he used his rocket shoes to gain momentum and fly back. 1. As a last resort, I used my fist and focused some chakra into it, hitting his breastplate which was still within reach. This caused him to hit the wall behind him. It seems that I didn't cause too much damage with this hit, and hitting such dense metal made my hand get a bit numb. I must say I like your style, but why do you help Stark, whose family only knows how to take? If you stay by his side he will destroy everything you care about. Seeing him standing up, I could only see a small bump on his breastplate. Don't compare your life with mine. I know what I do and I have the power to protect the things I care about. 6. While saying this I prepared myself for the next round. I only needed one chance to finish him off. But then I heard a voice behind me. Rhodey is free, I will help you. 3. Stepping next to me, she takes her battle stance. 1. Vanko laughed and said, how do you really think your action will change anything? Let me deal with you really fast and then Stark is next. Then he uses his lightning whips to slash at Natasha. It was too fast for her to react, so I grab her and jump away. This is too dangerous. Get out of here and try to contact Tony. I will hold him off. Natasha looked a bit worried and said, 1. Don't die here, and then she ran to the exit. Seeing this, Vanko says, let me show you what losing people feels like. He activated his rocket boots again and crashed through the ceiling, flying away. 1. This made my eyes widen in shock. I turned around to see where Natasha had escaped to. However, she was already out of the computer room and making her way through the hallway. I sprinted after her only to hear a crash in the hallway. As I arrived at the scene, I saw a whip already headed toward Natasha. No. Concentrating my whole chakra at my feet, I could see the whip in slow motion nearly hitting Natasha. I had no time to grab her. 2. Dash. Standing in front of her, I turn my head around and see her in shock. I smile at her and say, are you alright? He didn't hurt you, did he? No, I'm fine, but doesn't it hurt? Saying this, she points at the lightning whip line I hold with both hands. Surprisingly no, but it tickles a bit in my hands. 1. Turning around, I could see Vanko trying to pull the whip line out of my hands. What the hell are you doing? This should have split you in two. Looking at the line, I could see that my body was absorbing the whip's energy. When I felt that it was enough, I let go of it. 4. I felt the new energy coursing through my body and fusing with my chakra. This made me smile, and then I grabbed my right hand's wrist with my left hand and concentrated on the new energy in my chakra. 10. Suddenly an electric sound could be heard, like the screams of 1,000 birds. Lightning flickered in my hands in a frantic manner, and some of the sparks even damaged the walls around me. 3. What are you? Said Vanko, shocked. I hold my hand up while the electricity runs wild in it, taunting him. Let me show you what happens to those who try to harm my comrades. 16. Dashing forward at an absurd speed, I was ready to pierce Vanko and his armor. Somehow he managed to turn his body a bit to the right. Since this speed and feeling was still new to me, I couldn't really control it that well. 6. No, you won't get away. I still managed to hit his right shoulder, which resulted in him losing an arm. Stopping my momentum before crashing into a wall, I turned around only to see Vanko cry out in pain while holding his shoulder. Blood is oozing out of it. 1. Ready to give up? I ask, walking closer to him. Suddenly he uses the whip in his left hand to burn off the wound. You monster, this is not over yet. Then he activated his rocket boots and attempted to fly through the hole in the ceiling. As I tried to chase him, sudden drowsiness hit my body, and I couldn't gather enough chakra to do so. 3. I could only watch him fly away. Natasha came running up to me. Are you alright? Where did he go? Yes, thank you. He probably went after Tony, but with only one arm they should beat him easily. I lean my body against a wall and slide down to sit on the ground. Let's rest for a bit and let Tony handle the rest, I said while closing my eyes. She sat down next to me and also relaxed. Tony should be able to handle it, but after I take a breather, I should check on him. The story changed a bit because of my interference and I don't want to take any chances.